Hello, we are here with the one and only Kay Evans of Keller Williams in Atlanta, Georgia. Kay is the owner of the Southeast region, which is the highest agent count and the highest performing region in the entire Keller Williams system. I've had the honor and privilege of working side by side with Kay for now, I want to say about, 15 years at Keller Williams, right? 15, 16 years at Keller Williams, and then nurturing a great friendship beyond that. And Kay, you're one of the people I respect the most in the entire real estate industry. I see you as peerless. And I'll tell you one thing, and you've heard me say this before, I want our listeners to hear this. Keller Williams would not be the company it is today had Keller Williams not gotten in business with Kay Evans, with Kay, who we're talking to right now, and her partner, Bob Kilinski, who launched the Southeast region and really brought validity to Keller Williams nationwide because they were the first outside of Texas and Oklahoma who really built a powerful real estate company starting in the Atlanta area and then throughout not just Georgia and Nashville and Northern Alabama, but also Northern Florida. And so when you look at the Southeastern United States, Kay is one of the most influential people in real estate. And so Kay, I'm just so grateful for your time. I know we're going to learn a lot together today. And I want to start this conversation with a question about why you got into real estate, when you got into real estate, and kind of describing the early phases of launching your real estate career.
I'd love to talk about that. And Mark, thank you for those wonderful words. And I want to say that Bob and I we were certainly a partnership that was made to happen. I mean, it just worked out. And, we added Cheryl Sidoti as a partner in the Southeast region, and she helped us double what we had done. So Bob and I had a great start, and Cheryl, who's just stepped back, took it to a high level. So we've had great fun working together. People are always important, the people you work with. And you were always important to me in those days because you were a great encourager. And so I just wanted to be at the top of the game. So we worked hard. And thank you for that. In 1978, I was a high school teacher for 1 year. I taught business, and I never worked so hard in my whole life for so little money. And I know I hate to say that because people are like, wow, she's money driven. But I was the first year teacher and I was the senior class sponsor. I was in charge of caps and gowns and the graduation ceremony and ordering their rings and everything. And so I think you can see that would be a lot of work. And by the way, it was the largest high school in the state of Louisiana at that time. So there were 500 graduates. So it wasn't like a little job at that time. And I worked very, very hard and I liked it. But I came to the conclusion that I liked teaching, but I did not like the everything that goes along with it. So I decided to get my real estate license at night. And I did. I went to school at night and got my real estate license. And I decided I was in a great place to try real estate during the summer and just to see if I liked it. And if I did, then that I would continue with that career. If I didn't, I would go back to teaching school. And it was like, I took to that like a duck takes to water, as they say. It was a fit for me from day one. Lafayette, Louisiana at that time was heavy into the oil business, and the per capita income of that town was very high. Real estate was exploding. it was appreciation, get this, at 18% annually. Now, anything that goes up that high has got to fall. And sure enough, eventually it did. But for the first 5 years, I mean, it was blow away. And I had a great, great, great time selling real estate. It was where I needed to be. So that is when it started, 1978. So I guess I would be classified as one of the dinosaurs in the business, because many things have changed since that day.
Yeah, I guess I fall into that same category, because I got my license in 83.
Mm.
So things have changed a lot since that time.
Wow. Have
So,
they ever?
yeah, what do you think are some of the most important changes that you've seen over the last 40 years in the real estate industry?
Yeah. Oh, I have seen absolutely a lot. I remember actually, it wasn't long. The laws had just changed when I got my license in 78, but it hadn't caught up with the world at that point. But at that time, you didn't use a woman's income to qualify for a loan. Can you believe that? You could not do that. And of course, that law changed even before 78, but it was still carried on when I was selling real estate. And think of that. I mean, a single woman, unless she inherited a lot of money or was left with a lot of cash, could not qualify for a loan to buy a house. Now, that's a major change that
That's remarkable. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I think that changed in about 75 or something, but in 78, people were still getting used to that, and it was amazing. You couldn't, a husband and wife bought a house, but you had to qualify exclusively on the husband's income. You
My
couldn't.
goodness.
So that's a major change.
That's
I've also seen the computer come into being. We used to carry around these big, thick.
Oh yeah, the MLS books that we got every week.
Yeah, we did. We got them every week. And I also remember this. I had to keep quarters in my ashtray. Thank goodness I didn't smoke, because I needed my ashtray to keep my quarters so that I could stop at payphones and make calls to make appointments. If I was driving along showing someone a house, and all of a sudden we drove by one that they said, hey, I'd like to see that. So I'd pull into the nearest payphone, call the agent, ask for permission to go into that property. So having quarters in my ashtray, that was a big thing, to stay prepared for that.
And then cell phones came along.
And then cell phones came.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness for that. Absolutely. I was early on in my office. I was early on to take onto the computer, and I could just remember the panic in my real estate office when they took the MLS books away.
I think I panicked.
It was a prop.
Because you remember the TI, the Texas Instruments Silent 700 computer terminal that we used to use with the thermal paper.
Yes. Yeah.
And it try to print the pictures of the houses, and all we had was this black and white photo of the house, and you counted on the remarks and the photo, but you often couldn't even see what the house looked like because the printer was so low resolution. It's just it's fascinating to look back at how far things have evolved over the course of the last few decades.
I remember one specific incident. Since you're in Texas, you can probably relate to this. I had a corporate transferee from New Orleans to Lafayette, and he and his wife came over, and they wanted to buy a house. And one thing about it, even though you couldn't use a woman's name to qualify, then you could. It's a community property state. and both people had to be at the closing, had to sign the documents. And that was how it was then. And you know what? As a newer agent, I forgot to tell them that. So here he showed up for closing. He flew in from New Orleans to Lafayette for closing that morning. And I still remember his name. His name was Keller. And I said, Keller, where's Carolyn? He said, she's not coming for closing. And I said, oh my gosh, we didn't do a power of attorney. She has to come. And he said, you didn't tell us that. Oh boy, I set up a whole new system of notifications of things that I needed to tell my customers, clients. And so I said to him, you know, let's get her on a plane. I'll buy the plane ticket. So I bought her plane ticket to fly her in. We delayed the closing for an hour or two so she could get there. But my learning curve, you know, I ran through things like that. I never made that mistake again. I always took care of all notifications. So I think I've grown a little bit from that. And I've shared that story so that people would get their systems in place to notify.
That's a great.
And now we have technology that helps us do that.
Right. Now I remember, this is just a side note. I remember that my mother bought a house. It was actually a townhome for me when I was still at UT back in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And she bought it under Rachel C. Willis, Femme Soul.
Femme Soul?
She didn't want my father to have anything to do with it at the time. And I've always remembered that. He did not come to the closing. I think she did a quick claim deed to me because I took it over.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I'm just reflecting on how much the world has changed and how much better we are in terms of equality, even though it's not perfect today. We're certainly moving the right direction. So let's shift gears and let's talk about the Southeast region, and specifically, once you share a little background about the region, let's move to luxury, because that's really what this conversation is about. And I see you as such an icon of luxury, luxury real estate, luxury everything. You and I share that in common. We both love luxury. You know, we've got our new journal coming out that you're going to be on the cover of, and it says "We love luxury" on the cover, and it's true, right?
Yes, absolutely, it is.
Uh-huh.
It is. By the way, I tripled my school teaching income the first year in real estate. School teachers don't make a lot, but I tripled it, and that was really good for me.
Got you closer to luxury.
Yeah, it did.
Right. So, Kay, let's talk about the Southeast region for a minute.
Okay.
Give us just context about your region in the Southeastern United States and the size of it, and where it is today.
Well, today, actually, this is a great time to be talking about it because of course, we are beginning 2021, and we're just reflecting on numbers. And in 2020, we sold $33.8 billion worth of real estate in the Southeast region, which is all of Georgia, Tennessee, excluding Memphis, and Alabama, excluding the Gulf Coast. We have 14,000 associates in our Southeast region and 60 offices.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really
$33.8 billion.
Yeah.
Sold by 14,000 associates.
And half of that amount was sold in the Metro Atlanta area. So it is, Metro Atlanta, Nashville, Birmingham, those are very, very great centers of all of those states. So they're thriving, and, Nashville is as popular now with people moving there. So yeah, all of those numbers, I mean, they're staggering. Now the 60 market centers, Bob and I opened in the early days up to a little over 60 actually. And we opened real fast. If you remember our history,
I do.
Atlanta was just ready. We opened in Atlanta and we made the decision to build Atlanta as strong as we could and not to branch out to any of the other states until we had Atlanta. And it worked so well for us. Our strategic plan was build out Atlanta, and the other states that we have will come to us and want to, if we build it really strong, then we won't have to, go and work so hard to expand. And that is what we did. We concentrated exclusively on the Metro Atlanta area. And Bob and I made another strategic decision that we have never regretted. We did not own any of the offices. We created, and I give Bob absolute credit for this model. He said, well, he had some learn burn in New Orleans and we benefited from that. But he said, we're going to give opportunities to agents to own, and we're going to build core groups. And so we did that from the very beginning. And we opened our first office with 28 agents. And by the way, that office today in all of Keller Williams is always in the top offices. Sandy Springs is just amazing. I mean, they have over 600 associates in that office now, and their profit is very large, and they have a very good time. So that's what we did. We went in, we picked iconic, influential real estate agents, a handful in each area we went to, and made ownership. They capitalized, they came up with it. We were their consultants, holding their hand, helping them with their application. So it turned out to be a really great model. And we did not get into a bind by owning any of them because we felt like our focus should be the one thing, building the region. And that's what we focused on. And so we opened we had 3 consecutive years, I believe. We opened 10 market centers one year. We opened 11 the next year and 11 the next year. Yeah.
I remember.
It was during your time. You were encouraging me. You were calling me, hey, what are y'all doing? Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the one thing, and I was inspired by your story about focusing on Atlanta. Yeah. And not being distracted by other market opportunities, because they were certainly there. And I think that the message for our listeners is to nail their one thing first and to be clear about what that one thing is. And also in terms of what matters, having a real clear focus about what to aim for. Gives you a target and it gives you a bullseye, and you hit that bullseye.
We hit that bullseye. It was just it was a great happening thing. And then people began to call us from Tennessee and Alabama, and it made our job, and mine was to core group. And Bob is a financial genius, that, and we don't do budgets together because we are like worlds apart, but he is the greatest partner because he does all the hard stuff like consulting them and holding them accountable to this. I just go out and build the offices. That's what I did then, and find the core groups. And then he took them through the application process. He consulted them on their budget and their business structure. It was a great partnership from that vantage point. I didn't like to do what he did, and I think he could have done what I did, except I was from Atlanta and he was from New Orleans, so I knew people, and that made the difference. But it was an exciting time. I will tell you that I look back, and that was the most exciting time that I can think of that I've had career-wise. It was just great because we're meeting good people and putting good people together in our core groups. And here's the great thing. Many of those have wealth today that they probably never dreamed they would have. And that is what feels good. And we have a very benevolent company. I mean, we don't just make money to spend it all on us. We make money to give back to our communities and to help other people. And, you know, that's how, that's really how wealthy, when we talk about wealthy, that's really where it's moved to now. People are not so much, rich people are not so much measured by their heritage, like what their parents had, but they're measured by who they are and what they contribute. There's a lot of value in that. And I'd like to think that that's where our company is.
I remember Gary said, money is good for the good money can do.
Right.
And I hear what you're saying, and that is that wealth really isn't about all the things that you have any longer. It's more about contribution.
It is.
And sharing your wealth in a way where you can have impact. And
Absolutely.
so this is a great segue to talk about luxury. Let's talk about, first of all, give us some background on Live Luxury and your group in Atlanta that you've created and that you're nurturing. And then let's talk about how the affluent customer is different today, and stay on that conversation.
Okay. Live Luxury, I didn't create it, actually. They came together as a group of agents. And they called me. By this time, I wasn't the regional director. Cheryl Sidoti was the regional director, and she was busy doubling the number of agents that we had. I mean, that she went to town on that because she took it from 7,000 agents to 14, and she was busy doing that. And it freed me up to work on projects, and which I love to do. And so this group of agents called me one day and said, we actually want to take our luxury business to a higher level, and would you consult with us on that? And I said, I would be happy to. I will do that for 6 months. And now I'm in my 4th year, okay, of doing that. And so it's a small group, 65 agents, and 65 to 68 agents. And we meet when the pandemic is not here, but they are just focused on giving high level service and consistent marketing and branding and learning based. They're a very learning based group of people, and we have raised our numbers dramatically. We sold like 60, there were 63 agents, I think, contributed to this, and we sold $543 million worth in 2020, which is, amazing when you think about it. It was our best year ever.
You think that's 9 million per agent?
It is
better than 9 million.
Their GCI, was 9 million that they split between their own earnings, and so it was an unbelievable year. And so I'm proud of this group because we came together. We have great camaraderie. We bring in speakers when we can, the pandemic, but we're doing some Zoom now, and we will be really happy when we can get back together. But they pivoted amazingly during the pandemic, and they have a virtual business going where they show homes virtually. And, it's just amazing that we had that kind of year with all that is going on there. So I think
great year. Congratulations on that. Congratulations to them on all their success. Now, when you think about the affluent consumer,
right?
How are consumers different in the luxury market today from historically the way they've been? And maybe it's good to give a little context about the past and how it's evolved.
As far as I can remember, when I got into the business, luxury real estate was handled by typically a couple of small locally owned brokers in a community and a handful of agents. And that repeated itself. I mean, even in Atlanta, you had a handful of, 2 or 3 brokerages that controlled that and a handful of agents. And I think it has changed dramatically now because luxury, I said it, luxury is not your parents' luxury. Luxury, there's room for it because we have such a different environment of customers, clients who have made a lot of money, and they are definitely changing the face of the luxury client out there. So we have agents now who are meeting the needs of all of the different age groups who are buying luxury homes. It's been pretty amazing to watch, and it opened the door for a lot of companies to get into luxury, and it's just no longer controlled by 1 or 2 brokers, local brokers anymore. I mean, there's room for everyone out there, and you just have to be active to go after it and get it. So, yeah.
I think one of the things that has changed the landscape of luxury real estate so much, and luxury in general, is that so many millennials are now in that. I mean,
Yes.
there's a huge wave of luxury consumers today, and the different the younger generation has changed really the norms around luxury, and I think millennials by nature are far more inclusive than exclusive.
Yes, you're exactly right. Right.
And so how do you see any core differences in the kind of the luxury needs of the millennial versus the older consumers?
Yes, absolutely. The one word that keeps coming back in all the research that you do about millennial luxury buyers, they're not so much interested in the product as they are the experience. They will pay more for the experience. They buy things that fit their style and their value system. And sustainability is a word that comes back over and over again when you're talking about the millennial consumer. They're interested in buying things that don't damage the environment, that take care of the animals, and that are manufactured in an ethical and healthy way. So they look at things a little bit different. They're not flashy consumers. They like style, they like, but it's more of a simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting, to watch it, to watch that evolve. It's very interesting. So because you still have conspicuous consumers who really do want to buy for how things look and to impress people, but I think that's reducing in its impact.
When I think of the difference that luxury millennials have brought to the world of luxury, I think of how that generation streamlined architecture. They brought us into a more modern expression of architecture, more of a streamlined, clean interior, and less clutter.
Right.
And it's interesting because I look back at, like, I have a good friend in Pennsylvania who's is the top agent in Remax in that state. And, I was looking at this home that he listed, and it was grand and lots of beautiful dental work, and these wrought iron double curved railings going up to this stairway, looking down onto this marble, almost like the Clampetts, the He's looking down on this, like, beautiful, like hotel-like lobby that had, the marble in the middle of it with the marble table right there in the entry. And that's not what millennials want, really, is
No,
it?
it's not. No, no, it's not. I just sold a condominium in Atlanta and bought a new one. And when I sold my other one, I had some traditional furniture in it, things that you think, wow, this is just fantastic. Well, there is a really creative lady here in Atlanta, and she has started a company, which I think is so clever. She lists your furniture. You don't have to move it. She will bring the clients into your house. She will come in, she takes pictures, she prices, she posts it on her Facebook, and she brings the clients by appointment and they buy furniture right out of your house. And she says that she has had so many opportunities. There are many big mansions, in the Atlanta market. But when she gets a call to go and list a house full of furniture that's traditional, and it's hard to sell. Children do not want their mother's china. They don't want the formal dining room anymore. So that's a whole different twist too. You're right. It's cleaner lines. And I think that our advertising, our marketing in real estate has gone that way as well. I don't like busy, a lot of color ads. You see that everything is simple and clean lines and, subdued colors now.
You sure did. You sure did. I was just, my sister was telling me about her friend who had lost her husband, and she was moving, she was downsizing, and she had a whole cabinet full of Lalique and Sabino and these, these beautiful little, like they're the brands of these little trinkets, whether it is the special little boxes and that sort of thing. And she said, my children don't want any of this, and it's priceless. And they just didn't want it. They said, I don't care what you do with it, Mom.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that for me growing up, my mother had these beautiful pieces, and they were some of the things that I treasured the most,
right,
because she treasured it so much. And I think there's almost a less sentimental value about material things among millennials, and a more sentimental value about emotional things.
Exactly. It's the experience, it's the emotion that's attached to it way more than, wow, look at this curvy, bright colored gold. And it's not that anymore. It's really, really interesting. But people, it's hard to get rid of. I have a set of china that was very expensive at the day when I bought it, and my kids don't want it. So I'm going to try and find somebody to give it to that really wants it. But it's a whole different world there. I did a little research. Excuse me, did I interrupt you?
No, please keep going.
Did a little research, and my assistant Taylor, who's awesome, sent me this article about the Henrys. Have you heard about the Henrys in consumers? Okay, the Henrys are they are high earners, not rich yet. The Henrys, high earners, not rich yet. So keep your eye on the Henrys, because they are going to come along and be in the luxury consumer as soon as they're making good money, and they're just, which brings me to this. How do you classify someone who's rich? Because in the research, they always say it's if you have $1 million investable cash in the bank that doesn't include your value of your home, etc. Do you think that still holds true? Because that's been around.
Rich. That wouldn't be my kind of rich.
I don't think so either. I think that has changed too.
I do too. I tend to think $10 million. double digit millions today versus single digits
Right.
previously. It's just I think that's the true state of what rich is. And I think the wealthier consumers have gotten wealthier over the last decade, I think.
Because
And
the risk
that
takers.
raised the stakes.
Right. Yeah.
So let me ask you, in building a luxury real estate practice,
Mm-hmm.
where would you start and how would you approach building a luxury business today?
Well, I would start by trying to put myself in the presence of people, of affluent consumers. I would try to get contact. I quoted this yesterday. Jack Cotton is a luxury guy out of Cape Cod. You know him, but he has a statement that says something like this. It says, affluent people like to do business with people they know or are known by people they know. So I think you start enhancing your sphere of influence and contact base. However that case may be, you start getting to know people who are affluent, or the people who help the people who are affluent. And then I also think you prepare from right today. You start treating your presentations, you start treating your marketing material like it is being created for an affluent consumer. I get this phone call all the time, because we have product that we've created for the people in our Live Luxury group. We have marketing materials and presentations and that sort of thing. But I'll get a call from an agent who's in a panic and said, I have a chance to go and go on a listing presentation for a $2 million property tomorrow. I need some stuff. You know what? Be prepared. Start today accumulating, gathering, seeing what the competition is doing, and researching and creating your material so that it is like that. And go out and find the people. Where do you find them? Where do you find them? You find them at charity functions. I'm not telling you to use charity for that, but find something you can be passionate about. Interact with them. You go to wine tastings, you go to art galleries, you go to bridge clubs, you go to country clubs and get involved. But you have to put yourself out there where people are. So I think starting today, get prepared, kind of do an assessment of yourself personally, because there is another quote that I love, and it says that affluent people are typically have a high self-image, and they don't want to be involved with anyone or anything that tarnishes that high self-image. So I think take an inventory. Is there anything about me that would tarnish their high self-image if I had the opportunity? Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking start with self-awareness.
Right. That's what you have to do.
And, when I think of self-awareness, I think you first have to understand what really matters.
You do.
And why it matters, and what's important to you, and why it's important in terms of it, just your contribution. And then I think you have to get clear about your values. What are the principles that are the legs that are going to support the table?
Right.
If what's important to you and what you want to do and what your purpose is your mission, it's getting clear about the beliefs and the values that support that mission. And I think another thing that's important is understanding behavior. As you and I have, we're both students of behavior, right? And specifically using behavioral profiles to help people have greater self-awareness and to help people communicate more effectively with others. I think, that's important in the initial stages of whatever you're doing, is getting clear about what your purpose is and how you contribute and what matters, and what your principles are, and then how you typically behave and what your strengths are, and
Right.
understanding your weaknesses. Also, one thing that you talked about, surrounding yourself with affluent people. I remember years ago, I read an article about Aristotle Onassis.
Uh-huh.
And someone said, if we took everything away from you, what would happen? He said, oh, I'd get it right back right away. And they said, how would you get it back? He said, well, I'd go to the most expensive restaurants in town every single night, and I'd have one purpose, and that is to meet somebody of influence, that wealth. And I that stayed with me all these years. So when you share that Aristotle Onassis story occurred to me, because that's a great starting point, is to surround yourself.
You have to do it. And the other thing you have to do that I think agents are hesitant to do, you have to spend some money. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in better materials. You have to do that. And, agents pay to belong to live luxury. And we create things out of that. And our goal is to be consistent, because I do think that you have to have a higher level of consistency in the luxury world, because they don't like hodgepodge and things. It's simple there, but you have to spend the money and invest in yourself to do that. And I find a lot of agents are not willing to do that, and I think it definitely holds them back. The Aristotle Onassis story reminds me, when I was coming up in real estate in Lafayette, Louisiana, and anybody who listens to this from there was a Mexican restaurant there that was white tablecloth. The waiters wore tux. I mean, it was very high end, and it was called La Fonda. It's still there. When I go back to Lafayette, I still order the same meal. It was very great. Every business person ate there, and that's when the oil business was trumping. And so I told my husband one day, and I said, you know what? I have to eat it. We have to eat at La Fonda 4 nights a week. And he said, why? I said, it's good food and I get business. And that is absolutely the truth. I cannot tell you how many people, as we were waiting for our table, I picked up referrals from in there. I even sold the owner of the restaurant a very expensive lot in Lafayette, Louisiana, in the nicest subdivision. When I left Lafayette, Louisiana, I got one of their menus and all the waiters signed it, and I actually closed his loan in there. I could go back to La Fonda and trace back so many real estate sales from there. It was pretty amazing. And the funny thing is that people used to say, I hire somebody to call me at La Fonda at the peak hour, so they'll page me that I have a phone call. That was before cell phones then. So, you do. And there was also a health club in Lafayette that looked like, it was Red Laurel's, and it looked like one in California. I mean, it was so fantastic. And if you wanted to meet people of affluence, you worked out at Red Laurel. So there were 2 places you could be guaranteed of meeting people that would help you in your business. So I love the Onassis story. Those are not nearly as powerful, but I saw them and I experienced them in action. So
that's just, it's such wisdom that you shared about putting yourself in surroundings where people of affluence are going to be there. And the other message that I hear is that, Kay, if you're an agent who doesn't yet have money to invest in luxury and having the personal presentation that luxury consumers look for, maybe the first thing to do is to generate a lot of revenue in mainstream real estate and then evolve into luxury. And do you believe that that's possible?
I do. And I also believe, Gary, that in Keller Williams, one of our strengths is that we do all price points. I mean, we do mid-range, our offices do. And the good news about that is that when luxury goes down, the demand goes down. We still remain profitable because we have, every price. We do a lot of different price points, but absolutely. And I can remember a really big luxury agent when I was broker of a luxury office here in Atlanta, coming into my office and saying to me, she had a bunch of major listings, in the millions. She came into my office and said, Kay, I have got to have some bread and butter business to pay for marketing all these $1 million properties. So I think it's good for balance. I doubt that there are that many people who in the industry who, unless it's California or someplace where there's only luxury properties, most people can ramp their business up by, increasing their price point as they go, but saving enough money along the way to help them get into that. I do. I think it's good to be balanced.
I do too. I think it's healthy. And I when you look at how agents' careers evolve into luxury, a lot of times it's because they worked with first-time home buyers as they were launching their careers. And then those first-time home buyers throughout the course of their careers and their lives became affluent buyers.
Absolutely.
And it just kind of keeps working up. And so it can evolve naturally. I think that the one thing I find is that luxury agents who are really good, they know they're valid to the luxury consumer.
Absolutely.
And I think the hardest part of making that transition from mainstream to luxury is how you have to think and the confidence that you want to project and the relationships around you.
Clearly.
We become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with in terms of income and almost everything else, lifestyle wise too. And so when I think about it, I think it's your whole suggestion to surround yourself with luxury people is get close to those people.
John Maxwell, we've all learned about leadership through John Maxwell. Well, I love I love many things he said, but one thing he says that I say to people all the time, agents, you are who you attract. If you don't like who you're attracting, look at yourself and change that. Find out why. You are who you attract.
Again, right back to self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to switch gears for a minute, Kay, and I want to ask you about leverage in luxury. Okay. When you look at luxury agents, you often find that they are entirely the product, and that their clients need a relationship with them. And I think a lot of luxury agents struggle with leverage. Can you talk about that for a second and whether or not you think that's true and how you have seen some of the luxury agents succeed through leverage where they're not just the sole product?
Yes. I think it starts with when you bring someone on your team, make sure that they fit, that they represent your values and that you train them as to how to treat people. Also, the vendors you align with are very important. Let them know that they represent you and you're trusting them to have the same values, the same standards that you have. I do believe that there was a time when people wanted that lead agent, but I think we've moved just a little bit away from that as exclusively as it was. I think if the lead agent can present and introduce their team and tell them the value of what each team member, define what each team member does, and kind of make them feel like they're special because all of these people are going to be, and they're going to be working for them. and have camaraderie in the team. I really think it's okay now. I used to be, when you get in the real estate in 1978, you think you have to do it all, you know. I am a leverage queen. I believe in getting help because I think you give higher level service. There's no question about that. I've had a personal assistant for 17 years probably now, and she's absolutely marvelous. I can, have her deliver special gifts to people, and and a lot of all my friends know her, and they feel honored, and they know that she is as representative of me as anybody can be. But I think if you don't want to leverage, you're going to be limited. You're going to be limited in the level of service that you provide, and you're going to be limited in the number of clients you can serve. I absolutely, from the day that I started real estate, I hired high school girls to run errands for me, so that when I wanted to be able to walk in my house and not have to do anything. The groceries would be there, my prescriptions were picked up, the dry cleaning was there, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a part of my life since forever and always. And I can do much more. At my age, sometimes people say, gosh, you have more energy than anybody I've ever seen for your age. I think maybe there's a compliment there. But you know what? I have help doing the things that I want to do. And I couldn't do the things that I do if I didn't leverage. And I mean, it's all just like everything else is, leveraging with the right people. And the thing, Mark, you're the king of those behavioral profiles. Agents just don't hire right. They hire out of crisis. And they hire somebody that's cute, and they hire somebody they like. We have the perfect setup in Keller Williams for hiring behaviorally for each of our positions. And if they hire wrong, it's their fault. So getting them to take the time to follow the model and do that is really important. But I love leverage. It's great.
One of the things that I love about leverage is that it gives you, like you say, the freedom to go do so many more important things that have greater impact. And yet, I think that a lot of people, when they go out and they hire in crisis or for relief, they don't ask the question, is this the next logical step in the evolution of this person's career and future? And that's a question that I always ask myself about that individual. And as I'm going through the interview, at the back of my head is this question: is this the next logical step for them in the evolution of their careers? And a lot of times I think we think this is the next logical step in the evolution of my career.
Right.
And yet when it comes to succeeding through others, you have to think about the other person, not yourself. And I think a lot of real estate agents, as the rainmakers, they think it's all about me, my brand, and what I do. And it's my business, and I have to represent that business.
Right.
It's only because they haven't found people that want the same thing, for whom this is the next logical step.
Well, it's ego too. I mean, a lot of people think I've just got to do it. They want me. They absolutely want me. I see as and one big factor is real estate agents sometimes do not see themselves as employers. That is beyond, they have a limited belief in that. They have a limited belief, I'm not an employer. I can't have employees. I can't do that. But it's the not thinking big. It's the law of the lid. It's, all of that we've learned, that they don't see the sky as the limit if you surround yourself with the right people, the sky is the limit.
That's right.
And you reward them adequately. Just incentivize them, and when they reach certain goals, incentivize them, and it will take you a lot farther than trying to do it yourself. I was thinking about advising agents to go and mix and mingle with people of influence. If you have to be at your computer making certain that inspection report is done and the next step in the loan application is done, etc., you can't do that. So you have to have someone to take your transaction smoothly so that they don't drop through the cracks and free you up to go and build the business and build your business.
Right. And I think that if in hiring and building a team and getting leverage, the one thing is to work from a clear job description,
Mm-hmm.
areas of accountability. And I think a lot of agents skip that step as well.
No question about it.
I think that's what's so important. And then that in the absence of that, it leaves a lack of clarity about what the person is supposed to do that you're succeeding through. So this is just a great conversation about leverage in general and slowing down on the hiring side and getting clear about the needs in your business and who would represent those needs at the highest level. It's so important, and people skip that step. They want to rush it. You can't rush that.
Well, I hired Taylor Wood is the Live Luxury coordinator. And honestly, when I hired Taylor, we really began to really create. And Taylor is very talented graphically design, and she's a good communicator with the agents. And that's when we began to really, really, congeal as a luxury group. And because that was not something I could do all of that, and she does it. So it was a great day when I hired her to do that. So
that's terrific. So let's talk about commissions, because I think that for a lot of agents to get into luxury, the draw is the higher commissions.
Mm-hmm.
And
the commissions, the higher, bigger the amount of money. Yeah.
Right. And yet I don't find that that's what drives the majority of luxury agents. It's not about the commission, is it?
No, I don't think so either. I think that there's a lot of room for them and flexibility. They just want to be sure that they are meeting the needs of their clients. That's the most important thing of a really good luxury agent. They're not thinking about, the money, and boy, that's not their driving factor. I think you and I had a conversation when you sold a luxury property, and your agent kept saying, "I just want you to be
happy
and happy." Yeah.
That is a great story. So last year,
mm-hmm.
I sold a home for $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a home for $4 million. And I bought a property that was over $1 million that now I'm completely doing a remodel on. And I can say that, my agent on the $10 million and the $4 million house was Eric Copper in Austin.
Yeah, I love Eric Copper.
Eric's so terrific. And by the way, when you talk about somebody who's a role model for luxury, I mean, he's on the board of the Zachary Scott Theater. He's on the board of the Long Center, which is the Performing Arts Center. He is deeply involved in charities. That's his passion.
Yes.
And that has given him an opportunity to access a huge sphere of luxury buyers and sellers. Sure. So on this $4 million house, this was my own personal home, my wife's and my home. Mm-hmm. And I was selling the house. And when I first moved out, after my wife passed away, I moved to a luxury condo in downtown Austin, and I rented that house. And I then decided, well, I need to just go ahead and sell it. And so I did some remodeling just to make it really fresh and more modern. And I was about to put it on the market. And I said, you know what, Eric, I think I might keep this house and furnish it and Airbnb it and have it as a place that is my go-to place in Austin when I want to use it. And he said, great, let's do that. He said, I just want you to be happy. And, that meant so much to me. And, it was funny. He called me back a couple hours later. He said, well, I have 2 offers over full price and the house is not on the market. And I said to him, I said, well, here's the deal, Eric. I'll look at those offers, but I want to be real clear about something. When I accept the deal, they're going to need to have all contingencies removed. I will not accept a transaction where
You have
they're
to.
going to come back at me and try to renegotiate
Yeah.
over and over again. I will counter this offer when they do their inspections. They do all their due diligence first, and they are ready to go hard on their commitment. And Eric said, okay, I'll get that done. And we sold the house. I'm really pleased with the way we sold the house. And I did not sell the house, even though I said, well, I think I'm going to keep this house. Eric just stayed cool the whole way through. And I know it didn't matter to him whether or not he got that commission.
Right.
That put me at ease and gave me permission to go ahead and sell the house and give him the commission, I think.
He has been a speaker for our Live Luxury group, and we love him, Eric. We think he's just super, super. May I jump to something right now about, another thing, a conversation that you and I had, because you believe, and I agree with you, that luxury is going to be more stable now than it has ever been. Didn't you tell me that?
I did.
And let's talk about that, because that's what, everything. We've had so many people buy luxury homes lately. The luxury home sales have been off the charts, and that's been different. Usually when there's a mix up in the economy somewhere, luxury is the first to go. In this case, luxury went off the charts because of the pandemic. So tell us, I want to discuss how you feel that will be.
Well, this is what I've seen. I think there's a whole lot of money that people have not been accessing. Mm-hmm. That is in the banking system and in the investment system.
Right.
And in kind of building a future for the foundation of living our lives at a more advanced age. And I think that people are more willing to tap into that money today because they want the experience. And if anything, this pandemic has created awareness about the experiences that we want to have at a deeper level.
Right.
Because, for me, I know that prior to the pandemic, I had a very different lifestyle from the lifestyle that I have today. And it's made me cherish relationships more.
Yes.
It has made me have a different level of gratitude for all of my abundance and wanting to share that more with other people.
Right.
And it has made me more willing to spend money that I may not have spent before.
Right.
I think that today that a lot of consumers are not so much thinking about their estates as they were thinking about their experience.
Yeah.
And I do think that luxury has hit a new norm. It used to be just an exclusive, kind of unreachable.
Yeah, exactly.
And today, It's far more the norm. And it's not just this exclusive niche of the market.
No, it's not.
Few people have access to.
Right, right. I think I believe you're exactly right, because people have been sitting at home, and particularly those who scale down, and all of a sudden this hit, and like, oh my gosh, here I am. We don't have as much space. We are in a condo maybe, and we don't have green space, and we can't get outside, and and so I think they did cut loose. And I will tell you that Glenn and I, my husband and I, bought a home. We did not have that on the drawing board. And we bought a lovely condo in Atlanta, and we love it. But we bought a second home in a very relaxing place. That's what I think people are looking for. And I feel like the investment was good there. But, and we can get away from the city. And that is what's happening to so many people. They have gotten away from the cities. They've moved, they bought bigger homes in the suburbs. And it's just changed everything about their living environment. And I agree with you. We decided to take some of that money and buy that second home instead of leaving it where it was. And we don't regret that, because I think it was a good thing to do. For one reason, we're not sure where the economy is going to go in the future. We have to wait and see about that. So we're going to have, a great living space. I will say that one thing that got hurt was luxury condos in the middle of the pandemic, because
I know. Right. People don't want to live in metro areas and congested buildings, and we're all migrating out to the country. I mean, I moved from my condo that was my main residence in Austin to my river home, which is 40 miles away.
Yeah.
And I think that we are adopting a more rural lifestyle, because all the technology and the virtual has given us access to doing what we used to do, but doing it from the convenience of our own home. I want to add on to this whole conversation about the experience. I read that if you look at the evolution of our economy and what drives the economy, if we go back 20 years or even 10 years, it was about it was about consuming as much as possible, having as much as possible, acquiring as much as possible. And it was about what you had, what you were able to accumulate. It then evolved into the experience economy. You talked about the experience. So it's about the experience that you can have, and the memory that you can create, and the lifestyle that you can feel. And that the third movement is going to be to the transformation economy. And I think we're seeing a lot of transformation occurring right now. And systemically, structurally, we're seeing that. And I would say that when we think of luxury, we probably should think of it in a way where how it can transform the lives of the people we serve in a positive way and bring value to them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And then we probably need to wrap this up with some final comments. I could go on like this for the whole day having this conversation with you, because you're so like-minded, see things.
When Bob and I were building the region, you were just so encouraging to us, and our conversations were always so uplifting and powerful. And I just wish that the world people could be under a leader like you for that period of time, because it was just so much fun. And I think work ought to be fun. And I think leaders ought to create a camaraderie like that, for their people that are working. It was just, I didn't ever dread the calls that we were going to have with you, because, they were just so value driven, and it was just wonderful.
I never felt like I worked.
No, I think that's.
I never felt like it was work. It was fun.
I tried to back away and sort of retire at one point, and it just wasn't good for me. I didn't like it. I like to continue doing something as long as I can give value. I did one thing that we didn't cover that I thought was interesting about the luxury economy is a large percentage of luxury items come from Italy. And because Italy has not been creating as many of those, a lot of consignment, people are no longer fearful of buying from consignment stores. I find that very, very, very interesting. And that millennials particularly are buying now for sustainability or what the value will be if I want to put it in a consignment store. And I thought that was kind of an interesting development, that people were looking at their purchases for resale, even personal things, because the retail got hurt so bad. Now, I think that's interesting. Do you buy into that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And millennials like to repurpose.
Yes.
And they don't mind buying things that are repurposed. I was with a millennial in my kitchen who, we were having a dinner party at the house, and it's time to put the leftovers up. And I had a cottage cheese container that was empty and in the trash can. And this millennial said, "You need to use this 3 times, repurposing it before you throw it away." And I thought, well, I never thought of that. And so I do think that there's a higher level of maybe conscious responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the moniker that they go by. It's like, this is my conscious responsibility. And I respect that. I really do respect it. And I think waste is a horrible thing. I think millennials have a lower tolerance.
Right.
Waste and discarding things of value.
Yeah. We're learning from that. We're learning.
We really are.
Yeah.
This has been such a great conversation, Kay. I want to do this again with you, and I so appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Mark. I look back on my time with you as the president of the company as one of the happiest and most productive, and certainly the most financially successful times in my life, because, we were developing and helping other people, and, it was just fun. And we're able to turn around and continue to give opportunities to people. And I know that's what you're about. You like to see people succeed.
I love to see people win and get what they want.
Right.
I love to see people able to contribute their genius to the world.
I so admire that about you, and I've always respected that. And I've tried to really adapt. I mean, I feel the same way now. It makes me happy when someone succeeds at a really high level, and I've encouraged, we just had our awards, and we have like 89 millionaire real estate agents in our region. And that's a record number for, their GCI was over 1 million. I got a text that said, "You said I could do it." And it just thrilled me. So to see people, and also because not only do we emphasize them being successful, but we emphasize giving back. We have an agent right now, Jennifer Barnes, who has created a charity that has fed thousands of Hispanic families during this pandemic. And so we have a philanthropic feeling about our company. And I think that's a good balance. And I really thank you, because you were there in the days with Mo and Mary when all of that was developing. And so I look back on that as what a great time it was. Thank you.
Great years. such great years. And again, I'm just going to say Keller Williams wouldn't be the company it is without Kay Evans.
You are so sweet to say.
I am so right when I say that. And I'm just so grateful that you're sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience with our listeners for Mark Willis Leadership. And I'm excited about our upcoming journal together on luxury. I know there's going to be a lot of great content in that. And
I'm excited too. I'm very excited. Thank you for this honor. And I also will always say that Bob Kilinski gave me the opportunity to become a partner with him in Keller Williams Southeast region and then North Florida. So that's the power of relationships. We all need someone, and we can reach out and help. And then we brought Cheryl Sidoti on, and she's having a good life. So, but we're all giving back, and that's what's important. I love Mark Willis. Thank you for inviting me.
I love you, Kay Evans, and this has been such a treat. It's been so much fun, and I look forward to talking and catching up really soon. So
I do too. Thank you so much.
You're a one in a million.
Oh, you are too. Bye-bye.
Bye.